Okay, next you've got to take this, so you just pull a little bit, and then what you got to do is lift upward, okay? I like to bump it. That'll take it out of these little locks. That comes right off with that Phillips we took off earlier. So, got that removed. Next, you just want to kind of pull on this. Pull this rubber shroud, the weather guard out. And this piece right here, because we took all those bolts on the back side, it should come right out, just like that. And what we want to do is get it out of the way. So we're going to put something up on top of there, sit on, and just set it on. There we go. Now that is out of the way. Now, the window you just lift up and kind of angle it on this side so it slips out, and just lift it up and out of there. We kind of skipped a few steps. If you look inside, there is there will be 5 bolts you'll have to remove from down here. This just sits in there just like this with this bracket on top. You'll have to remove those. These cables go inside this channel. We'll have to take that out in a second. And then right here, this end comes up through here and it feeds through this little pocket. There's a pocket right here. Right there. It goes through that, and there's 2 bolts right there that hold it down. You can see those 2 bolts that are missing, 2 bolts that are taken out, and the cables go through this pocket right there. Go through that pocket and go both ways. And the little connectors snap on right here. They'll snap in there. It locks on one side. You just stick a screwdriver on one side and pry it out, and it just pops right off. So the next step was also to remove this. This sits in here. You just got to ease up under there and just kind of nudge it up as you're going. I stuck it between here and the rubber so it didn't scratch the car, and just sit there and nudge it up. It'll pop loose, and then you can take it right out of there once you get it loose. It comes right out, and right here will be the other connector. It slips in there and locks in on this front tab, and then you can pull that out and remove it. Okay, now that you've got this removed, we're going to remove this bracket, or this little cover. Luckily our cover was okay. If yours is broken, you're going to have to replace this piece, this cover, but ours we turned out okay. Yeah. Now there's these big washers in there. This little spacer, you need to make sure you don't lose those.
You did that one.
It's still in there. Okay, anyway. Okay, yep. So pull those 3 out.
The bottom one has the ground.
And this one's the ground. This one's the long one. Okay, so now that we've got all 3 of our screws out and saved the little spacer that we need to keep track of, you got to disconnect everything. So snap that off, and this little cover will come off. Inside you'll see a spool. Looks just like this. There's a bearing. This bearing needs to go right here. Just stick that bearing right in there. And make sure it stays there. We don't want to lose that, okay? Then on the bottom side of this, you will see there's your kind of a gear. Just ease it on out of there, if it'll come.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's a rubber thing that sits inside of that, and the gears push onto it, just like that. Okay. So what you want to do is unspool whatever's left in there. You'll pull it out, these little connectors. Okay. Next we gotta unhook these little ends so we can get everything loose. You just turn them, and they'll pop loose just like that. Okay. Just a second. Okay, so when we pulled these two bolts, I showed you those two bolts earlier inside the slider, inside the slide of that door hinge part. Well, anyway, there's those where those two bolts go. On the bottom side of it, there's two Phillips screws, and there's also one on the back side of this bottom half. We're going to take those out. Then this should just pop off.
The other one. Did you do that other one?
Just like that. Next, you can flip this over. Take this one out right here. Just like that. Okay. Then just pull your cables and all your stuff out of here. That's what we want to do next.
Pull them out.
These are the old ones in the kit you'll buy. I bought this kit off of eBay. It'll come with new plastic slides. It's probably a good idea because inside of these little caps here will be bunched full of metal fragments and junk, and inside the end there, which will inevitably probably destroy your new cable. So I'd recommend getting new ones when you do this install. They sell them with it for a few bucks more. It's worth getting. And here is the, and that's the new ones installed, and the red will go, if you're looking at it like this, on the right hand side. This is the passenger side, by the way, passenger side. Our connectors are still good, so we are going to save those. And the way to do that is there's this little slide right here. You just kind of pull them out, just like that. There's your spring. That's when you'll get your new cables, which we... here's the new cables for this. The door. You can also order ones with the ends also. Then you'll just take this end that comes from the factory. It looks like this right there, and you will slide it all the way through. Just like that, and pull it all the way through. When you load it up, you get there, you load it up, and then you'll put this little lock back in place. Pull it tight, lock it back in place. Just like that. And there's done. There's one done. I'll just repeat that same thing on the other side with the white connector. Okay, so if you look at it like this, you take the black cable that comes, because one's a little bit longer than the other. The ones I ordered were black and white. The longer one of the two, which for me is the black, you got to put it in the left side hole, and pull it through, and that's when you'll feed it through that side. Then you'll feed it through the white end. Just push it in through there, through this little rubber end. It should go all the way down in there. There it is. Then you can take your other cable that we made with the black end silver cable. It's the shorter one, and you'll put it in the right side. So first one on the left, second one on the right side. Just a little hole right there. Just fish it through, and it goes to the red. It's the shorter of the cables, it goes to the red. And it should come out on that end.
Here it is.
Just like that. Now by doing that, so if you look at this in this upward position, you can see that the right side would be your silver cable, which is tied to the red, and the left side, if it's sitting in place, would be the white and the black cable. Then you've got to get these to track correctly, so we're going to do that now. The black one just goes into this channel right here, just like that. This wheel goes right in there like that. Then if you come around this back side, it comes around and it locks in the lower of the two. There's two different grooves in this wheel. It goes in the lower of the two, just like that. Comes around the lower of these two, just like that. Crosses over and goes out. Then you grab your silver, and it's lined up with that channel already with that wheel. It comes around just like this, and it'll go on the top wheel. There's two wheels there. It's kind of got to guard to lock it so it stays. And you'll bring it around, and you kind of got to snap it in that one right there, and that is it. Now the next step is to put, well, you've got this one set together. Let's put our little end back on here. It'll guide everything and lock it in place. Just kind of snaps in. Put your Phillips screw right back in there. Just like that. Now this one, it's still holding where it should. Just like we want. You cross these over, and you'll take this, and it has this tab on the top. You'll see how it lines up. You just put it back in place and make sure that these are sitting where you want them to. This one right here, you kind of got to lift up when you bring it around, or else it pushes that cable down. Let's see, I've got a little thing, just a screwdriver would work just to keep it in place. Push it in as you push it on, and it should slip into place just like that. And this side sits, make sure they're lined up. The black one's in the lower again. Cross it over once again, like we were saying, in the wheels that they belong, and then you can snap this front together just like that, and it locks in. Then we put the screws on, so that lower tab is just holding it, just like that. Okay, go, we tighten that. Finish tightening these, that end is done. Now we got to come back to this side. Also in the kit, it'll come with these little ends. At this point now, you've got to put those ends on the end of the cable. So what we got to do is take the cable, and you want to cut off just about what those are. You know, about 1/4 of an inch. So you got bare metal. You want to trim that off, just like that. So you get a good bare metal edge with no insulation around it. Then we'll take that end, you'll see how one is tapered slightly. Put it in there, slip it into place. And then right here I've just got a big piece of steel. I'm going to just take a hammer, flatten it out slightly. Just want it pinched down so it's strong enough to hold that connector, just like that. That's what we want. And you'll do that with both ends. So you take the other side, you'll do the exact same thing. Now this is where you got to get kind of creative. You've got to trim these little smash things we just did, the little ends, so that they will fit in to these little locks right there on both sides. So luckily I have a big grinder. If you have a little disc grinder or anything else, you can make this work. Okay, so just keep going and keep checking. You'll get it to where it locks in just like that. So that's your goal, to get it to lock in to where you can push it down in there and lock it in place so it'll hold and you can wrap it up. Now if you do like I did and you broke the extra one that you had, Lowe's also sells them, Home Depot. That's where I'm headed to go buy one now for this end because it popped off.
So we went to Lowe's and got this ferrule and stop kit. And the two bottom ones are the ones you want to put in.
They're the ferrules and they're 16th inch.
Yep. And they bite down a lot harder.
And they don't break. The other ones tend to crack and break to pieces really freaking easy. It drives you crazy.
You have to grind these ones down just a little bit more because they're bigger. So that's what he's going to do now.
Okay, now that we've got our ends ready to fit, you got to put it back on here. So this side with the gears needs to be the silver side. Like I said, there's a rubber thing inside of there, and then this gear right here that slips in there and it locks in and sits on that spline. So this, the black cable, the longer one, needs to start on the opposite side of that, this side where the bearing sits. So just lock it in. You go around, you want to go halfway, so 1, 2, and a half. 2.5 turns is what you want, so you'll see 3 there. Is about 2.5 from this opposite side. So now we've got to put the other cable, the same thing, and spool it the other way. Right? 1, 2, and a half also. And there you go. There you have it. That's where you want to hold it. Each one will be, they'll be symmetrical, about the same on both sides. Then you kind of pull your slack out up here on this end. As you do that, you'll get it lined up to where it just drops right on. Just like that. It locks in. You put your cap on. So you got to do that before we get that far. And make sure that you get these lined up in their channels. Now we can soak it up. And lock it on. It just locks in just like this. So I don't know if you saw that, but this other side just slips right up in there and locks in just like that. And there you go. Then you got to put these back in and lock them back in with the rubber on the back side also. I slid that on after. I don't know if there's a better way, but that's how I did it. Okay. Now just go ahead and put these back on. Remember, the ground wire will go with that other side, and this one here is the end. You put that little metal spacer, exactly. Drop that down in there. Snug them up. On this back side, you put that spacer in there. Then, like I said, you put that grounding cable on. There we go. Okay. How would I record this? Now to make sure you did everything right. Should be able to pull one and the other one gets smaller, vice versa. Pull one side and it gets smaller. Perfect. So we're good. Now we're going to go back to the van and put it in.
Go ahead.
So the next step, we're going to fish this up there. up through here, and get up on this top side, catch it. We'll have to drop this loose so we can do all this. Get this down out of the way. There's just all these bolts all the way around the top. This
you
one
don't
has a
have
ground.
to mess with these
That one has
two
a
right
ground.
there.
Yeah, these two and these two, don't worry about. We just want to get this loose to help fish this up through there. We didn't have to do it on taking off because we did have to because we took off earlier. We had done this before we ordered the kit, so when the cable kit came, we swapped it out. So yeah, we'll take that off real quick and
undo this power switch right there, so when that comes off, it doesn't break that as well.
Yes, exactly.
Record this or not? Do you want me to record this? Down further. That one has a ground, so it has to have that special bolt on it. And that one right there does as well. And there's one more between those two.
Okay, and then that should be it.
Don't forget your power switcher.
Yep, I'll disconnect that. Just on the back side, squeeze it, pop it off. And it'll be stuck a little bit, but you just gotta work it and it'll come loose. And there you go. Now right here, you can see that there's a little clip right here. That clip will lock in the cable, one of these cable connectors, when we fish it up through. I'll show you that later.
One of those cables.
So it's best if you can get this up a little bit, up and out of there, just like that. Get this piece of bottom trim across here out, so that you can try to take that off with the window things too. But that'll help you get this, when you're pushing this up through, it'll help you get through there. Okay, now as you get it up through here, you will want to feed these connectors down through this little hole right here. Make sure you push them both down in there. You'll have to get the door to the right spot for them to want to go through. And once you get them through, you'll be able to push this back into place here and put those two long bolts back in there. And they are, it's actually three. So there's one that goes right here, and there's one that goes right here that hold this bracket, and then there's one that goes right here I didn't show you earlier that it holds this connector in. Okay. Then put them back into place. That's not even. Okay, I just had to work that around a little bit. Okay, now tighten this one before we get too much further. Make sure those are tight. Okay, then down here, you'll notice that our connector kind of disappeared. We just unhooked it. It just slides off. You pull it towards the forward, and it just